here we are again. I am Yuya, Assaan-ANU, and we are now entering the foundational Friday experience on enlightenment and transformation. This is a interesting Friday coming into now. We're getting ready to go into our summer solstice in about another 20 to 21 days from now. So that's always cool. And just to give you all a heads up before we get started on our show today, I will be running a special this month between the 21st to the 30th, which is the solstice into the end of the month. And during those times, the classes will be heavily discounted, as well as the readings. For those of you who want readings will be discounted, and so will the classes, okay, for the months of the solstice. So you definitely want to jump on that, get in on those discounts now, and that's to celebrate the solstice. You know, typically in traditional times, during that time, we would give offerings and things like that. So that is my offering to the community, a deep discount in my consultation services as well as the class. And of course, on that Friday, which is the 21st, I will be doing a show specifically on the solstice and the rituals that you can do and how you can harness and capitalize on that energy of the solstice. Also, on the 14th of this month, I will be doing a show dealing with the concept and the ideology of God. Who or what is God? All right. For that particular show, I'll be doing that live. So I want you to call in and, you know, share your perspectives and share your ideas, share your calculations and your findings. Doesn't matter if you're coming from a religious perspective or a spiritual perspective or neither. Call in and let me know how you feel about that. Who is God or what is God? That will be again on the 14th of this month, June 14th. The 4th of June. Also, which will also be happening this month of June. We got a lot of new things happening. I will be commencing a Ustream show that will be getting started, and we'll be sharing more details on that later on. But I will be doing that show twice a month, live video where you can, tune in and you can chat with me and ask your questions on the board and things like that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. And that will alternate on the Sundays. It will be on Sundays, most likely, but it will alternate on the Sundays where my new spiritual training students don't have live question and answers, which are closed and private only to registered students. So that's what's going on in this coming month. We have now come to the end of it. And there was a lot that happened in May. We got some new students come into our learning environment, and it's a lot of remarkable things going on. The group that we have on Facebook is jumping, so I'm very happy about that. The questions that are being asked and the concepts that are being covered are diverse, and no one's really tiptoeing. So make sure you participate. For those of you who, again, have not joined the group, which is a lot of you, make sure you join the ANU Spiritual Training Group. Okay, the ANU Spiritual Training Group. And I'll leave a link to it in the description of this show. But all of you should have it by now. And to make sure you definitely have it, sign up at the anunation.org website for the newsletter. That's very important, because in that newsletter, I will be giving the actual code, the coupon code that you need for the discounted classes, as well as the link to the page that you need to go to in order to get your discounted readings this month. Start your solstice off the way you want it to start it off. Okay, so you go to ANU Nation, which is ANUNATION.org. Again, ANUNATION.org. Go there, and at the bottom of the page, you're going to see where you can sign up for the newsletter. That's very important. Sign up for the newsletter, because I know a lot of you avoid the whole Facebook thing, which I do not blame you, And in order to stay abreast of what's going on and the happenings and the changes, the best thing for you to do is to sign up for the newsletter. I only distribute one once a month because I'm sure, like many of you, I don't like a whole lot of extra email coming into my box that's unnecessary. So I choose not to be one of those digital pests like many others can be. So it's only once a month that I send them out and let you know what's going on and let you know what shows are coming for that month, whatever discounts are happening, or even if I'll be in your area, doing any type of spiritual work, passing through during readings or whatever. That will be kicking up as well in another month. I'll be doing some traveling down through the eastern states to southern states. So, keep an eye out for that. I have some work coming up down in that area. So anyone who wants to link up and get a reading or do any work, anything like that, make sure you send me an email. Okay. And you can go right to the Sadulu House website to do that. And that's SADULUHOUSE.org. All right. So in any event, like I said, this has been an exciting month and we're going into June and I'm looking forward to the solstice. Many of you've heard me say oftentimes that I don't necessarily hold myself hostage to astrological or natural events, because more so than those events reflecting what's going on in our lives, they're supposed to really be governed by what we decide and declare and proclaim to go on in our lives. So what I mean by that is that we are supposed to be the heads of nature and not the other way around, and that's where the harmony and balance and coexistence comes, not from a destruction and a warping of the natural environment, but a guiding of the natural environment, because whatever's going on in you is going to be reflected in nature. So if you can bring yourself to the best vibration and the highest ideas that you can currently conceive, then nature will bring itself to its highest ideas that it can currently conceive of. All right. So I know you hear the back and forth music playing. I'm still kind of on my Beje vibe, not gonna lie, with the polarities going back and forth, positive, negative, left and right. The Book of Thomas, we covered that in the last show. If you didn't listen to it, go back and listen to the archives. The last show we covered the energy of the Orisha Ibeje, and we compared the Ibeje with the Book of Thomas as well as some other energies like Gemini and the Marasa. So, you want to go back and check that out. Always go through the archives, because I know sometimes some of you ask certain questions that have been covered in shows already, and I realize there's a lot, so maybe you've missed some along the way. But there's a lot of good information in the archives, and people who've been listening to them have given me some really great feedback. Some people are still getting through the archives from last year, and really taking their time with them and studying and writing notes. And that's excellent. It's not a race. So, it's good if you can stay current, but it's even better if you can make sure you're digesting everything that is coming forth. So again, that's why it's excellent, to make sure you sign up for the newsletter. So in that case, if you're behind in shows, at least you kind of still know what's going on, or, any new changes that you may want to be a part of. Okay, so you want to make sure you definitely do that. But in this session, we're going to be dealing with the concept of spiritual lessons. And I really wanted to cover this because a lot of times when I speak to people, we speak about things that are going on in their lives. And most people, usually when they're going through something, they chop it up to one or two things going on, and, if things go bad and they do ritual work or they do prayers and the outcome is not as they would like, they say, this was a lesson for me to learn this, or someone's doing something to me, or so forth and so on. But no one really, I don't want to say no one, but not often enough are people really investing in the methods and the technical activities that you can do in order to actually find out if what's going on in your life is a part of a spiritual lesson, or it's just a part of a karmic reaction to something that you've brought forth yourself. Now, ultimately, you can learn from everything. You can learn from your mistakes, as well as from your achievements and your accomplishments. But it's important to be able to know what is actually manifesting in your life. So if you know the root of certain things and you know how they always manifest themselves, then you'll be able to outline and kind of see some of the patterns in your life, which is important. This is important. These are really the important things that we need to get into before we start harping on Orisha studies. You know, I know people really like when I do the Orisha shows, or when I do the shows dealing with certain cosmic energies, or from breaking down movies and things like that. And, you know, that's cool. You know, I'll always give you some of that. But if you don't have a base understanding of how your mind works, of what your own spiritual psychology is, then you're not going to really understand those cosmic archetypes. You think you are, because, you know, you'll pick out certain things and you'll say, oh, well, that's me, or, you know, this or that. And you don't really understand that there's so much to these energies, just as there's so much to you. You know, one of the things that we tend to do when we're dealing with spiritual studies, or we're dealing with the concept of God, you know, we always take on the parts that make us feel the best that we could possibly feel about ourselves. You know, so we'll talk about the compassion and the love, and that's why I'm that type of person. I'm compassionate, and I'm loving, and I'm forgiving, and I'm that. But we never really want to talk about the other aspects of who and what we are, and how those things are manifesting in our lives. When unpleasant circumstances manifest in our lives, usually we're quick to chop it up to somebody else doing it to us, as opposed to realizing that it's always us doing it to us. In the Facebook group, someone had said the other night that when things are occurring, or situations, unpleasant situations are occurring, that she said, you know, sometimes I like to think it's not about me, but at the end of the day, it always reflects me anyway, in some shape, form, or fashion. So what I told her was that it's always about the true you, but it's never about the new you. And what I meant by that was, every situation that you go through, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, whatever it is a reflection of your soul's karmic yearnings and balancing, whether that soul be expressing itself joyously, or that soul is expressing what it needs from you. So whatever you're actually going through, or those things that we sometimes like to call spiritual lessons, they're always coming from your root self. And when I say your root self, I'm not talking about your personality. So sometimes you might tell a person that, and they'll say, yeah, because I get that, because I'm the type of person like this. When you can say I am then you're missing it. We're not talking about that person. We're not talking about your temporal personality. We're talking about that ancient soul inside of you that may have suffered some sort of, we could call it damage from your last incarnation, and needs something in this incarnation. Or maybe there's a lesson through lifetimes that you have yet to get, or yet to really want to accept. And it has to keep presenting these things in front of you. And what happens is that the other souls who come to the planet, they make a pact, an agreement with your soul to say, listen, we're going to create these situations for you. We're going to make this agreement so that you can finally learn this lesson. So ultimately, everything that's going on around you, everything that you're dealing with, is about you, your truest you. And really, it's kind of a misnomer, because your truest you goes beyond the individual identity. But we'll say your Ori. And this is the aspect of the Ori that sometimes we speak about. Most of the time when you speak to someone about Ori, they'll tell you, you know, it's either head or it means destiny. But as you know from my book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power, that the Ori has several components to it. And outside of those components, it also has various concepts and compartments or expressions that are connected with it. You know, when we're dealing with the aspect of where we would receive our orchestration, our life orchestration, we're dealing with the Ori Apere. And within that Ori Apere, we have various expressions, one of which being the Akunleya, or sometimes we call it the Akuleyin. We have Akun Legba, and we have the Ayin Mo. And I won't get into what each one of these is, but what these deal with individually is they deal with the life that you set and you design for yourself before you leave Orun, which is, as you know, heaven, which is really the real world. Everything here is just a reflection of the real space. So even though sometimes we say, oh, my spirit double is in heaven, the reality is, if anybody's the double, it's the person you look in the mirror and see yourself to be, the I. That is really the after effect of the real one. These different components, they deal with what time dispensation you'll be born in, your gender, who your family members will be, what kind of home you'll come up in, and some of the aspects are mutable, and some of the aspects are not mutable. Okay, when we're dealing with these different things. So, even your career, what exactly will you do when you come to the planet? Everything that we experience on the planet was already contained within the seed of our Ori, already preordained and pre-orchestrated based on what? Based on what that Ori needed in its evolution. When we have lessons that come from the soul, they express themselves as one way. When we have lessons that come from a spirit that is wrapped up within its personality, it comes in another form. Sometimes we'll say things, we'll say, oh, the Orisha are doing this or they're saying this. But just like Eshu, Ilegba, is the gateway or the messenger between you and the other Orisha, or you and Orun, heaven, your Ori is the gateway between you and the Orisha. Without Ori, there is no Orisha contact. So whatever the Orisha are moving and doing in your life is because of the instructions that you sent through your Ori. So even if you're experiencing something uncomfortable or unpleasant from Ogun, Oya, or whomever, it is because of what you've sent across that bridge. Now, to include in the audience of people who may not be totally familiar with Ori, and if you're not familiar with Ori, go back to one of the earlier archives where I discussed what the Ori is. But for now, just understand that it is your inner consciousness. It is your soul. Okay, so what we're speaking about here is the creation of what's called negative karma. The creation of negative karma. Whether you are experiencing positive karma in your life or you're experiencing negative karma in your life, you're experiencing them because there's a lesson that you need to learn. And there's an unfolding process of that lesson. So it becomes very difficult when we go through something and we have a positive result and we say, okay, I'm on the right track. You may be, or this may just be an unfolding of something that you placed in the water earlier on. And what I'm going to say is that water example is this. Let's say if you were at the center of a river, right? And you were an island, a very small island, and you were dropping different colored dyed stones into the water. Now, each one of these dyed stones, when you drop them in, they will produce a ripple with a certain color. So let's say now at the edge of this body of water, there was some type of concave where the waves would hit, but then they would fold back upon themselves. Okay. Now, very interesting when you look at some of the original conceptions of, we'll say, the planet, right? Before things were created, before land masses were created. And a lot of our ancient mythology, it is said that it was full of water and the waters were constantly folding back upon themselves. You'll find this in many ancient scriptures, even this reference of this chaotic water or this water without form. And what we have here is the constant push and pull and the creation and destruction of karma, of consequence, of reality. And in this, we know this is our number 8 in our supreme mathematics. This would be build or destroy, which is a constant process. Number 8, if you put it on its side, you see the infinity symbol. So this is an eternal process of creation and destruction. And only through that eternal process of creation and destruction do you actually evolve and push things forward. Okay, so through our experiencing of negative and positive karma, or again, of positive, negative results, pleasant, unpleasant reality, do we actually evolve ourselves forward? There was a gigantic mistake that was put forth many years ago with this movie, The Secret, which was originally a book. The mistake was that there was no moral compass included in this new technique and process of utilizing the laws of attraction. Whatever I put my mind to, I can manifest. But there was a lot of talk around manifesting abundance, manifesting prosperity, manifesting anything you want, which is really just one side of that karmic creation process. It wasn't spoken about, well, who and what is actually doing the manifestation? Is it my soul doing the manifestation, or is it my spirit doing the manifestation? Is it my personality? Because when we're operating directly from the mind, when we're operating directly from thought, the reality is the majority of the times, the things that we're trying to manifest that we desire, they're really artificial desires, because everything here is an illusion. So you're doing all this work and you're existing now in this realm and praising this realm of logical thought, but there's cyclical thought to a degree, but you're really just living in the realm of the mind with no moral compass. This is what we call unconscious creation. So you can unconsciously create your karma. Now, let's go back to an example of the island in the middle of the water. Now, as I shared with you on the Olokun show, whenever we see great bodies of water like that, and we see, and we're talking about mythology now, and if you haven't checked out the Olokun session, please go back and do so. But whenever you have stories about islands within the middle of water, or even an island sinking in the water, what's being addressed here is consciousness. So when the island sinks, people go unconscious, or they go into a slumber, a mental slumber or a spiritual slumber. When the islands rise up, or the islands are present, like we hear about how Zeus was raised on the island of Crete, or how John had his revelations on the island of Patmos, which we also know to be the island of Pilan. And Pilan is also an elision of the word pineal. So we discussed the pineal in previous shows as well. So again, I encourage you to go through the archives. But when we're dealing with that pineal, we're also talking about an island in the midst of water. Okay, so this is from where we can create our conscious karma. Now, the pineal also is the Ori Iwaju. So this is an aspect of our Ori, an aspect of our soul. These type of things we're talking about, this is a place of consciousness or conscious creation. So now let's talk about really this example again. We're throwing pebbles into the water that create waves that fall back on us. So when we're throwing pebbles of unconscious creation just because, then we're now creating a certain reality for ourselves, which is usually based on the personality. I'll give you this example. When we use temptation, right? And I spoke about this before, how temptation is actually a gift. Because what it does is it allows you to play out what would actually happen, what the results of your lessons would be. We're talking about spiritual lessons here. So what happens is, let's say if you throw the rock, you hold the rock over the water, right? And you get to see a reflection of that rock and you say, oh, wow, okay, this is the red rock. This is the red rock of militancy. This is the rock that's going to create warfare. Okay, So if I create warfare and I throw this out there because I'm holding it over the water, I can see the reflection of it. And we're going to equate this with temptation. If I can see the red rock of warfare, then it would be only right for me to also assume that when this wave comes back, I'm going to bring warfare and militancy into my life. So we may ignore that because we want to ignore the reflection, because a lot of times we don't want to take responsibility for our actions. So we'll pretend like we didn't even see that reflection, throw the rock out, let it land where it may. And then when militancy or anger or warfare comes into our lives, we blame someone else without realizing that we're creating our own karmic cycle. Now, sometimes we may sit back and look at this in other people's lives and say, wow, this person is always going through, but they seem not to bother anyone. So they seem, when we have these situations where anger is approaching us, or war is approaching us, or anything that's approaching us, betrayal, the first thing we need to do is source it. We need to say, okay, what's the source of this experience? Let me trace this thing back. A lot of us are walking around very angry. Okay, and we don't know why we're angry, or that anger is not properly directed to the source as it should be. So I don't necessarily have an issue with anger. You know, this is where we get into the one side of the spiritual lesson of the polarity of karmic creation. People will say you shouldn't be angry. People should say you should only love, and When someone approaches you with anger, respond only with love and compassion. You have to look at that anger and you have to figure out, okay, did I create this cause for myself? Is this an unfolding of my own personal karma? And 10 times out of 10, it is. When you encounter angry people, it's because you're angry. That's a gift. That's a lesson that you need to start dealing with. People hold up these constant mirrors to you. So just like when we throw this stone in, we can do several things. We can create our karmic realities unconsciously, or we could choose the response and what causes we're going to create in our lives. Either way, there's always going to be a cause and effect. So we can choose those cause and effects, or we can unconsciously create. So usually what we deal with when we say someone is unconscious or, the island is sunk in, they're creating causes for themselves and they're creating lessons for themselves. But their lessons are coming from experiences dealing with the personality. So typically the lessons are coming with fear, pain, and anger. That's the only way that they're learning, as opposed to learning through love and compassion and unity, which is where you're learning from love. Now, sometimes we misjudge people. Most of the time we misjudge people. We say, okay, if they're going through something, then they're doing something wrong. But anybody who's on this planet is going to go through something. You have to. The moment you cease to go through anything and you're living totally in compassion, you're living totally in love, you're living totally in the light, then you no longer have a need to be here, because that means all of your lessons have unfolded themselves and there's no more pebbles to throw into the water. When you're living completely in that realm, that's when we transpire. That's when we transition. So anybody who tells you, well, since I've joined this religion, or since I've started to do this or started to do this, my life has been smooth, wonderful, everything is perfect, everything works for me. That happens in valleys and peaks. That you're just waiting for some of those old waves to come back on you. And some of those old waves may be from other lifetimes. So what we learn through our traditions, our lessons are how we respond to those waves when we come. And the more when they come, and the more times we respond appropriately, the more we gain power over the impulses of responding incorrectly. So when anger comes to you, when betrayal comes to you, when greed comes to you, when jealousy comes to you, do you respond in kind and further amplify that cause, or do you respond with its complement? And in responding with its complement, you slowly begin to gain power. But what happens is, just like when you're doing strength training, right? In order for you to gain muscle, you have to have resistance. You have to have some form of resistance against you, even if it's your own body weight. And by having that resistance, your body evolves itself. It goes further. So when you decide and you choose to make causes of love and compassion and unity and oneness, what happens now is that the universe responds with resistance. Because the universe says, okay, you know what? If that's what you want to do, then I have to strengthen you in that area. So I'm going to bring your causes towards you that you've created, because now you're ready to consciously take them on. And the more times you respond to them correctly, the more you gain power over them. Eventually, you gain so much power over them that you no longer need to be here anymore experiencing them. Okay? So death can be a beautiful thing. And for this, just consider the couch potato / athlete scenario. For someone who has been conditioning their body over a certain period of time, eventually the training is not needed as much because their body stays in a certain position. If you look at athletes and you look at them well into their elder years, they still have a physique that looks as though they work out because their body is used to being in that position. Whereas if you've been a couch potato for the majority of your life and you decide you want to work out for 7 months and you change your physique, but then you stop working out, your body's going to go back to what it's used to its natural form, which is the couch potato body. So you'll find that you'll lose your gains very quickly. So what you have to do is maintain a consistent schedule, a consistent regimen. And after a while, the body will say, okay, this is how you want to be. This is how you want to look. Well, the same holds true for your spirituality. When you maintain your consistency in it, your spirit and your soul says, okay, these are the causes that you want to see in your life. Okay, I see. You're constantly investing into love. You're constantly investing into righteousness. You're constantly investing into the laws of Ma'at. You're constantly investing into the laws of the Nguzu Saba. So these are the causes that we will constantly now create for you. So when you go on to the next stage, you will be fully aware of who you are, which is your goal. So with that said, that is our show for today. I'm Yuya Assaan-ANU. Make sure you pick up a copy of Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, as well as Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Until next time, Hotep.